What's up everybody? Welcome to my channel. I'm Wendy. I'm a dog groomer by trade, but a huge crafter. I do scrapbooking, cross stitch, knitting, crocheting, you name it. I probably haven't tried them all, but resin is new to me, so I'm going to keep a log of the things that I do, and hopefully you can learn from the things that I make mistakes with and learn from my successes as well. Hope you enjoy the channel, and we will talk to you soon. Of course, for my first project I'm going to try the 3D bloom, which I suspect is probably high up there on the difficulty range, but in order to do it I have chosen the Ecopoxy Flowcast SPR. It's a 2-to-1, I'll show you the back, not the front, 2-to-1 ratio, and it, as it turns out, I didn't realize when I bought it, it is a low viscosity resin, which as you will see does not work for 3D blooms. So I've sped this video up because you don't need to watch me pour resin, but I put some aside for my white pigment paste. I will check the temperature just because I didn't realize at the time that it was a low viscosity resin and that it wouldn't work for blooms, so the temperature really didn't matter. But I wanted to show you the tool that I used that I got from Canadian Tire in the barbecue section. You'll see, you saw there that I had used a clip. I'm not very good with using piping bags, so I found myself a clip to put on the back of it to keep it from leaking. The glitter that I used was actually a black glitter with multicolored in it. One thing I learned is that it floats really well. And then what you'll see is that as I add the purple, it turns blue. So be aware of that. The white that I put in a lot, and I put it in quite messily. But I've learned through doing this several times that it'll work that way if you have the right resin. And then I'm just taking a tool, my silicone tool, and pulling in from the outside and then out from the center just to create a little bit of a different look. And I like this look when it works. I had a little bit of extra alcohol ink because I wasn't happy with the way the blue was showing up, and I was hoping that it would stay purple this time, but it didn't. Okay, are you ready? Because I'm not. I'm not ready for this at all. Because I know it didn't work. There's no way. How not to create 3D blooms. And as you can see, all the white sunk to the bottom. This would be attempt number 4. I've switched over to a new Ecopoxy UV Epoxy kit. The UV Epoxy, just like the other one, has no VOCs, can't smell anything. but it is a medium viscosity resin. Once I mixed it up, there were a ton of bubbles in it. I used less of the pigment paste this time because I felt the first 3 attempts I used quite a bit, so I figured I'd try it with a little bit less. And I checked the temperature. It was at 27-28, but I decided to go ahead because the working time on this is quite short. I think it's only 20 to 30 minutes. When you open the Let's Resin inks with a pin, be careful when you're pulling the pin out because the ink just spurts out like crazy. So do it over something that's not important, maybe over the garbage, and hold a tissue over top. You can see on my fingers, there's a ton of orange. And you'll see here that I didn't have enough resin to fill the coaster holder. Silly me, I made the assumption that the round coasters would use the same amount as the square ones. And of course, that doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't. So I had to add a ton of the white into the holder in order to fill the mold. So here's the finished product. Apologize for the camera not focusing very well. But you can see in the top left corner of the coaster that there were a ton of micro bubbles in there. This is the back. I would consider this a success, but I think it would be better if I had used more pigment paste. Okay, so this is my final attempt. My resin, I heated it up in a hot water bath prior to mixing. Make sure you wipe off the bottles really well so you don't get any water into the resin when you pour it. I put some aside for the white pigment paste. The pigment paste I'm using is Colorberry Next Level White. I'm using Let's Resin alcohol inks, orange and yellow. And I'm also going to put a bit of the Sinker White that came with the set in a couple of them as well, just to see the difference between the two coasters. So I'm mixing up my white. Just checking the temperature to see where it's at. I didn't really let it sit very long, but it's at 33, 34 because I let it sit in the hot water bath. I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not. I'll have to try it one day without letting it heat up and see if there's a difference. Just dropping my orange alcohol inks on the top, then the yellow in the middle, I'm going to try it without the piping bag this time. Just doing a little swirl because the yellow in one of them looked like it separated a little bit, so I just wanted to neaten it up a little bit. And here we go. And I do this very messy, but it worked out last time I did it, so it will work this time as well. Just breaking up some of the blobs. Now I'm going to put a couple of drops of the alcohol ink, Sinker White, in for the other two to see if it makes a difference. Someone suggested that it would make a difference for the blooms. Oops, and I dropped it into one of the coasters. And nothing I do is very neat, so if this required you to be very neat, it doesn't work for me. I'm just going to go in with my silicone tool and wipe it off every time, just so I don't get the colors all mixed up too much. I like to go out as well on a bit of a curve, just to give it some interest. Breaking up the blobs. A little swirl in the middle. And there we go. I'm just going to go do a quick torch. Be very careful with your torch on silicone molds. It can melt the molds. So this was my first attempt. That's supposed to be the good side. And there's the bad side. And they're all like that. And I took them out of the mold too soon, so they have dents all over them and everything. So yeah, and there's the holder that I did at the same time. I can use it. Nothing beautiful, but it's, yeah, it is what it is. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. And then this was my second attempt when I waited for the resin to thicken up, heat up. And again, not really what I wanted. And you can see all of them are like that. But I'll find something to do with them. Don't worry. They aren't beautiful right now, but they will be when I'm done with them. Like my glosses, by the way. Look at the design on them. They've got different little frames that go over my frames. So, like those. They're my favorite. Anyways, so this was my third attempt. And that's the back. And there's the front. So, they're cute. They're not exactly, there's the back. And there's the front. I kind of like them. But they're not the bloom that I was looking for, that's for sure. There's the purple one. There's the back. There's the front. Hopefully you can see that. And there's the last one. There we go. So those 3 attempts were all done with a low viscosity resin. And I learned from all these mess ups that blooms don't work in a low viscosity resin. So I switched resins. And here was my first attempt at that resin. Looks like a bloom. I don't think I put enough white in it. There's the back. There's the front. But you can see, hopefully you can see, there's a ton of little micro bubbles in there. So I'm not sure about this resin. We'll have to see after several attempts. And here's another example of the same ones that I did. And again, you can see they have a ton of micro bubbles. So, and I didn't really like the yellow in the middle. The orange and the purple worked out okay. They look pretty good, but yeah, I didn't like the yellow. So, another set. It's usable. I'll end up using them. They're not bad. Now, here comes the fun part, because I did 2 more sets. One set I forgot to hit record. Smart me. But here's how they turned out. A little bit of a blob in the middle. But they're cute. I like the colors. I put enough pigment in. There's number 2. There's number 3. I think that's my favorite one. And number 4. They worked out pretty well. I was pretty happy with them, so I'm disappointed that you didn't get to see the video of me making them, but I made another set for you, so you got to see me make them, and here's the results. And 2 of them I made with just the pigment, the paste, and 2 of them I made with the paste and the alcohol ink, with a couple of drops of alcohol ink. So here are the 2 with the alcohol ink, and they have a bit of a blob in the middle. They both do. And I don't know if that's because of the way I poured it, but they turned out, they look really nice. I'm pretty happy with them, even though they have blobs in them. And then, and I made these ones for my son. He asked me to do yellow and orange, which is great. They're a nice color combination. And then there's these 2. There's this one. I think, nope, that's not the one. This is the one that I accidentally dropped 1 drop of alcohol ink on top of everything, the white alcohol ink. You can see the little swirl of it. But it's my favorite. I think it turned out really well. I think these ones turned out extremely well. So I'm happy with them. So the moral of the story is, do not use low viscosity resin when you're doing 3D blooms. It doesn't seem to work very well. Doesn't matter what I did, didn't work. So medium, a thicker resin is a better choice. And oh, and by the way, these ones, you can see there's not as many micro bubbles in them either, because of me leaving the bottles of resin in hot water prior to using it. So you can see there's a few, but certainly nothing like there used to be in the other one, in the purple and the square ones. So if anybody has any ideas on how to get rid of them completely, I like this resin. I'd like to continue using it. I know I made a mistake. I didn't go around the edge of the mold beforehand, so there are some bubbles around the corners here that were trapped. But they're for my son, so I can just dome them with clear, and he'll be happy with it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you're enjoying my channel. Subscribe, like, and if there's anything further you'd like to see from me. I think next time what I want to do is take these coasters that I don't like and do something on top of them to see if I can't repurpose them. Good chatting with you. We'll chat with you later. Take care.